Welcome to the Positive Change Methods podcast with me, Andy Smith. Each episode will bring you tips, practical change formats, and new perspectives to make your life and work better right now, drawn from Appreciative Inquiry and related approaches. This episode is brought to you by the Practical Appreciative Inquiry Facilitator Training. Let me show you how to get started using Appreciative Inquiry confidently with teams and small groups. The next live online course starts soon. You can find the details and how to book your place at coachingleaders.co.uk. All right, let's get going. Episode 8, the Wholeness Principle. When you understand this principle, you'll know why the more diverse viewpoints there are having input to the decision-making process, the more robust and likely to succeed those decisions will be. How having the whole system in the room frees us from the limitations of our assumptions, and why you won't need to sell change to people and get their buy-in. As well as the 5 original principles of Appreciative Inquiry, I'll mention them again as a quick review: the constructionist, anticipatory, poetic, positive, and simultaneity principles. Other principles have started to emerge in the light of new thinking and the practical experience of Appreciative Inquiry practitioners. I should add that I'm instinctively wary of principle creep, the multiplication of new principles in the field. Every new principle that's added, especially those with names where the meaning isn't apparent at first sight, is an additional impediment to explaining AI to the layperson. There's also a risk that it overlaps with one or more of the existing principles, introducing extra complications, whatever additional richness it might also bring to the AI field. A lot of books about Appreciative Inquiry don't mention the emergent principles, either because the books were written before the new principles emerged, or because the authors of those books understandably didn't want to overload their readers with too much theory. Having said that, I think these 3 emergent principles proposed by Diana Whitney and Amanda Trostenblum in their book The Power of Appreciative Inquiry, A Practical Guide to Positive Change, 2003, bring enough value and are sufficiently different from the original 5 to be worth knowing about. Let's take a look at them. The Wholeness Principle. Why does wholeness bring out the best? The Wholeness Principle is about getting the perspectives of all stakeholders, about everyone having input to decision-making, and about understanding the whole story. A story is a narrative of how an event or series of events unfold through time, told from a particular viewpoint. Stories are how we make sense of the world. The meaning of each event as it happens is evaluated in the light of what's happened before, the backstory, and in the light of our expectations of what will or should happen next. It can be very tempting to think that the story we're narrating to ourselves is the whole truth, all the more so when our colleagues, friends, or work culture are transmitting and reinforcing the same story. In fact, because any story comes from a particular viewpoint which embodies particular beliefs, values, and associations, the whole story is never a singular story. It's often a synthesis, a compilation of multiple stories shared and woven together by the many people involved, from The Power of Appreciative Inquiry. In the discovery stage of an Appreciative Inquiry process, as each participant undertakes appreciative interviews with another person in a different role, at a different level, or working in a different team or organization, they necessarily hear different stories. These other stories give different viewpoints and a different version of the truth. In hearing them, the interviewer comes to realize that the truth is more complex, deeper, and richer than previously assumed, and comes to a deeper understanding and connection with the person telling the story. The whole system in the room. In an Appreciative Inquiry session, we aim to have the whole system in the room. Ideally, this includes everyone responsible for or affected by a change, or at least representatives of each group of stakeholders. This idea is a departure from traditional methods of change, where senior management and perhaps some external consultants would decide what the changes should be. If they consider at all how their proposed changes would impact others, they would necessarily be doing it from the outside. At best, they would imagine themselves in the shoes of employees, customers, and other stakeholders, but it would be a very lucky guess if they could fully imagine the perspectives of people in these other groups. It's much more likely that they would carry over some of their own assumptions because our assumptions are usually invisible to us. They just appear as part of the fabric of how things are. Here's an illustration of how assumptions shape the way we see the world. Researching their book Unjust Rewards, Exposing Greed and Inequality in Britain Today, Polly Toynbee and David Walker assembled a group of top-flight lawyers and merchant bankers in 2007. When these high flyers were asked, how much would it take to put someone in the top 10% of earners, they came up with a figure of £162,000. In fact, at that time, the true figure was less than a quarter of that at £39,000. When asked about the poverty threshold, they put it at £22,000, which was actually just under median earnings, which meant they regarded ordinary wages as poverty pay. This doesn't happen when you have the whole system in the room. Instead, the diverse viewpoints expressed lead to greater understanding between participants and better and more robust decisions. New possibilities emerge from the creative fusion of ideas as we make sense of new information and try out different viewpoints. What's more, major flaws in proposed solutions which are invisible from a senior management perspective are often obvious to the frontline staff and customers who have to make them work. So why not involve frontline staff and maybe the customers or service users who are on the receiving end in developing the solutions and get something that works better? Also, a whole system approach encourages trust, a breakdown in them and us thinking. They are real human beings sitting next to you, listening to your story and telling you theirs, and a can-do attitude. Making sense of different viewpoints and trying out different perspectives encourages individual and organizational learning as we reflect on our own drives and values. As well as thinking about improving how we get what we want, we can learn and develop in the area of why we want it and what our goals should be. Plus, when everyone has input to a decision, you don't have to worry about selling the decision to them. You don't have to get their buy-in to a proposed change because the change is already theirs. As a workshop participant quoted in The Power of Appreciative Inquiry says, "Wholeness evokes trust. When everyone is there, you don't have to feel suspicious about what the others will do. There are no others. It is collectively empowering. There is no one else who must approve your plan. You know that whatever you collectively decide can be done." Some questions you may want to consider in the light of this principle if you're thinking about bringing in changes. Who else do I need to involve? Who will be affected by the proposed changes? Whose opinion do I need to seek? Where am I making assumptions and how would I know if they weren't correct? Next time we'll look at Appreciative Inquiry's enactment principle and how it's different from fake it till you make it. Thanks for listening to the Positive Change Methods podcast with me, Andy Smith. You can find the show notes at positivechangemethods.com. Please like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you like this episode, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you can review it. See you next time.